Explaining Journalism. What is news? News is the process of gathering information and making it into a narrative report. Journalists are taught that they should create stories of conflict, drama, human interest, proximity, and deviance. Every news story should display attributes of fiction, drama, structure, and conflict, rising and falling action, a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's a quote by Reuven Frank. And then David Eason said, they make sense of events by telling stories about them.
Ever since Nellie Bly faked insanity to get stories for journalism, they use false entities to gather information. To achieve the truth and to give facts, journalism routinely walk the line between public rights to know and personal right to privacy. Example, journalists may be sent to the hospital to gather quotes from a victim. Journalists worry that if they don't get the story, the quote, the competitors might get the story. Today, in digital age, they raise the question of how far a journalist will go for news. And an example, Google will sue in 2008 Street View service on Google Maps and constituted invasion of privacy and claims conflict of interest is a perfect example. A journalist may stand to get benefits of producing a story, freebies, for example, like gifts, favors, traveling, special treatments, and other privileges. Some small newspapers with limited resources and poorly paid reporters might accept freebies like game tickets for sports writers.
In the 1840s is when the telegraph was first established, and that's how America got its news from all over the place, and that's where modern journalism was born. Modern front-page journalism de-emphasized political analysis and historical context, and accenting the new and the now. The profession drew criticism for failing to offer historical context. Criticism continues today. And an example of this would be the urban and drug stories that heavily dominated print and network news during 1986 and 1988 election years. The stories virtually disappeared in 1992, and editors claimed it was yesterday's news. Another example, the Janet Cook hoax. She was a former Washington Post reporter, and she was fired for fabricating an investigative report. She made up a cast of characters, a mother who contributed to the heroin addiction of her 8-year-old son. Chicago columnist Mike Royko criticized conventional journalism, saying that editors should have said, forget the story, find the kid. People in any other profession would have gone to the police. Another good example of getting a good story, airplane crash in Milwaukee in the 1980s. A photographer that covered the story by sneaking behind police barricades to snap the first grim photos. The bottom line is that reporters often learn to evade authority figures to secure a story ahead of their competition. And these days, it's common to promoting themselves on getting the story first. For her journalism, an example would be Barack and Michelle Obama with a fist bump at the Democratic presidential nomination in 2008, and it was misinterpreted by a lot of people. What her journalism is it occurs when reporters stake out a house, chase celebrities in packs, or follow a story in such herds that the entire profession comes under attack for invading people's privacy and exploring their personal problems, or just plain getting the story wrong. Relying on outside sources has made reporters heavily dependent on experts. What they know generally subordinates who they know. When using expert sources, journalists must make direct contact with the source by email, phone, or in person. They do not, however, heavily cite the work of writers that would violate desire to get the story and getting it on their own. For most journalists, balance means presenting all sides of an issue without appearing to favor any one position, basically telling both sides of the story. A narrative strategy is part of the tough style of some reporters frequently used in political writing. Rules and rituals governing American journalism began shifting in the 1950s. John Daly was a former radio and CBS game show host. Fred Friendly and Edward R. Murrow regarded as first and definitive news documentary on American TV. The differences between print and news. Broadcast news is driven by technology, and print reporters use notebooks and laptops. They offer the same immediacy as live TV. Print editors, they cut the stories to fit physical space around ads, and much higher percent of space is devoted to print ads. Modern print journalism for TV news and deserves credibility from live on-the-spot reporting, believable imagery. A soundbite is part of a broadcast news report in which an expert, a celebrity, a victim, or a person in the street responds to the same aspects of an event or issue, and it focuses for intense criticism. The arrival of CNN in the 1980s led to dramatic changes in TV news delivery. Today, news anytime, day or night. Talking heads are less expensive and is an audience preference.
In modern news, we have alternative models, both public journalism and fake news, and two main models of journalism have emerged. The first being informational or modern, which emphasizes a neutral point of view and just objective explanation of facts, and the other being partisan or European, which analyzes events, advocates solutions, and puts them in a whole historical context. As far as public journalism, the mission goes beyond telling the news to embrace a broader mission of improving the quality of public life, like altogether. It promotes conversations between the citizens and the media, giving rise to citizen forums. It developed in response to a widespread feeling of alienation. Citizens felt passive and uninvolved. So in 1987 in Georgia, they began having town meetings and public discussions to promote that conversation. There's some criticism, including a loss of editorial control. They're accused of just marketing to just give readers what they want. A loss of credibility. Journalists should be value neutral. Polls reveal that less than 25% of today's Americans have a great deal of confidence in both newspapers and TV news. Another criticism is loss of balance in both sides of a story by seeking common ground and the loss of diverse views. Fake news and satiric journalism is inspired by cynicism, particularly about politics, and it exposes hypocrisy with humor. It demonstrates the valid need for change, and a 2007 study found that viewers were better informed than most other news consumers. As far as journalism and democracy, it's critical to democracy because journalism requires freedom of the press, ability to question government, the public's right to know, and two sides to every story. Social responsibility, journalists should be more than just observers. They shouldn't just expose the truth, they should confront the truth. And it contributes to deliberative democracy. Citizens, local government, and news media work together to shape social, economic, and political agendas. It encourages public debate and involvement, and it leads by example, and journalists should become activists.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Woo! Back again. That's right. Luda. Feel this. It gets meaner and meaner each time, baby. Feeling real good, too. Holla at him. What up, Uncle Face? Yeah. I'm a bull of this industry, man.